Hello and welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking about a report that has come out, and it is talking about the fact that the year 2021 has been the deadliest year on record for transgenders. And guess what, y'all? Some major fingers are being pointed at the black community, specifically black males. There's a very, very interesting reason why this is even a report, but it's more proof that people need to get their eyes open. I want you all to listen at this report and listen at how so-called black males are being implicated as the ones who are responsible for this deadly year. Okay? Take a listen and I'll be right back.
This year has been the deadliest on record for transgender people, according to a statement released by the LGBT advocacy group the Human Rights Campaign. 47 transgender and gender nonconforming individuals have been fatally shot or have died by violent means in 2021, according to the group. The HRC has been recording violence against the transgender community since 2013. In 2020, the group recorded 44 deaths of transgender or gender nonconforming people. Advertisement. Many of the deaths have occurred among the black transgender community, specifically among black transgender women, according to the report from the HRC. According to NBC News, a disproportionate percentage of fatal violence against transgender people has been recorded in the southeast region of the U.S., as many southern states have increasingly rolled out legislation targeting transgender youth. Several states have introduced or passed legislation that would prevent transgender girls from participating in sports teams that match their gender identity. In addition, some states have passed legislation that would ban the use of gender confirmation treatments for transgender youth, such as puberty blockers. Brendan Lance, an assistant professor of criminology and criminal justice at Florida State University, told NBC News that fatal violence against the transgender community also has a lower clearance rate for arrests or court prosecution connected to the cases. The clearance rate for fatal anti-trans violence is reportedly around 44%. While the national average falls between 60% and 70%. According to data compiled by Lance, witnesses are less likely to come forward, and a lot of issues enter the equation, he said, according to NBC News. Nearly 80% of deaths involving transgender people included initial misgendering by media or law enforcement, according to a report released by the HRC on Wednesday.
Okay, so there are some obvious things that can be said about all of this, but I want to focus on the fact that because there is a market for this sort of thing, this is why people are finding themselves caught up in situations. It's been implied that a lot of these situations happen because someone didn't know that the person that they were messing around with was transgender. They didn't know it. And so when that element of surprise gets them, this is what causes this type of reaction. This is something that's been going on for decades, right? It's been going on for decades to where people are attacking trans people when they find out that they're trans because they didn't know ahead of time. So they were lured into this by deception, right? But more recently, in recent years, you have it to where there are laws that are being put in place to where you cannot say that you didn't know that the person was trans. They're counting it as some type of almost like a hate crime, but it's a law against trans people. They're not looking at what you're saying about it, that they deceived you and you didn't know it was a man, and or you didn't know it was a trans, or you didn't know. They're not looking at all of that. They're looking at the fact that the incident happened, the violence occurred as a result of it, and so you're going to have to deal with the consequences. And so what would I, a person like myself, say about this? The Bible talks about whoremongers, right? These are people who just go around sleeping with folk, and they're not married to them. And so these types of men are finding themselves in traps. They're finding themselves in situations where they are essentially facing jail time because they killed someone because of that element of surprise. But if people weren't out here messing around in the first place, if people weren't out here just picking up prostitutes, because some of these trans people were prostitutes, okay, or people who were, not being honest about who they were. And so they hook up with some man, and this man finds out that what he's dealing with is not what he thought it was. And some of these men blink and they take the person's life. And so if people had a standard of righteousness to begin with and weren't just out here picking up pieces of meat just because it's offered or even looking for it, in the case of some of the men who are actually hooking up with prostitutes, you wouldn't find yourself in these situations. Right now, it seems as if the Most High is not playing with anyone. He's saying, look, you better get tight and you better get right. If you weren't out here playing, you wouldn't have got caught up. That is what the Most High is saying. He's telling all of us who understand and know what's right and wrong. He is saying that you better get yourself together. It is time to repent. And we see that our people are finding themselves more and more in situations where, not just with trans people, but in general, finding yourself in situations because you put yourself in that position to be in that situation in the first place. Meaning the standard of righteousness and holiness is going over your head. You don't care about it. And so the Most High said, okay, since you're not seeking after right living and right conforming, but you're conforming to this world, you're going to get caught up. You're going to get caught up. We understand that all have sinned and that nobody is perfect, but it's high time to awake out of this sleep. To me, this is a form of being asleep. When you are out here doing this kind of stuff in the first place, you couldn't possibly be awake. It's like you're walking around like the living dead. If you're out here still getting caught up in stuff like this in 2021. I mean, come on now. Even the fact that there are diseases should be enough. But, decades ago, that didn't matter to people either, did it? None of that mattered to people. So, essentially, what we need to be doing is trying to figure out how to right all of the wrongs that are in our community. Okay? You wouldn't get caught up in a situation like this if you weren't out here looking for pieces of meat in the first place. You see, you wouldn't be caught up like this. And so right now, the finger is pointing to the so-called black community. Notice the report basically implicated black males for being the number one main reason why there is an increase in this type of activity or violence against trans people. It is time to get your house in order, house of Israel. Whether you are female, whether you're male, young, old, it doesn't matter. It is time for us to get our house in order. All of this frivolous sinning, I'm telling you, it's time to do away with all of this nonsense. It's too much of it going on. Can't you see that the Most High, he allows this. The Most High allows this stuff. He allows them to point the finger at the house of Israel because the house of Israel won't repent. And yet we continue to complain that they're targeting us. They're always blaming us for this and doing that and doing this. Of course. But who allows it? The Most High does, because he says, if my people, which are called by my name, would humble themselves and pray and seek my face. And what did he say? Turn from their wicked ways. He is saying that his people are wicked. They got wicked ways. He's telling you to turn from it. Until our people turn from their wicked ways, the Most High is going to continue to allow these other nations to pursue you with the rod of correction. All right, I am done with this story. In the comment section below, remember to keep it tight and keep it right. But until next time. We hope you liked today's topic. Please leave your comments below. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, share it like this video, and with that, we're out. Be sure to ring the bell to be notified of new uploads on this channel, and also comment, share, like, and subscribe.